Hello people, welcome back. First of all, hope you had a really good Christmas and a happy new year. I certainly did. I've been bloody recovering over the last few days, hence the lack of uploads, but I'm here, it's 2024 and let's crack on with 10 fights that I want to see this year. As always on the channel, I am really trying to mix in fun and realism and go a little bit kind of outside of the box and also kind of look at like some high level and high kind of profile matchups and also some less high profile ones. And yes, it has to be said, I have nicked this right from MMA on Point. However, how can I put this? I got more interesting things to say than MMA on Point, apart from Tommy Toewold. I love Tommy Toewold. The rest of them, they're a bit toilet. But anyway, let's not waste any time and get on with fight one. I mentioned this fight in my UFC 296 matchmaking video. I think we have to see Dustin Poirier and Colby for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's heat on it. There's the whole ATT thing going on. You got Dustin Poirier is a really good friend of Jorge Masvidal, and we know about, you know, the feelings in between obviously Colby and Jorge. And also, I just think there are opportunities that come around when you get two huge names fighting each other. It's often at the detriment of a division, but I think here it's perfect. Poirier can move up to 170. I was talking about him and Gilbert Burns for a long period of time, but now Burns is fighting JDM. I think him and Colby makes perfect sense as a 5-round co-main of a decent level pay-per-view. You could put that on the undercard of maybe, I don't know, Alex Pereira, Jamal Hill in the middle of the year, somewhere around there. International Fight Week maybe. If McGregor's coming back, that could be the co-main under. There's loads of options with a fight like that, and I think it would be a good one as well. Covington was awful against Leon Edwards, but I do believe him when he says he had a massive injury on his foot. Some people are saying that's bollocks. I honestly think that is probably true. And if I'm being honest with you, I would probably say he beats Poirier, but who knows? Either way, I want to see it in 2024. A real grudge match, you know? Moving on from veterans all the way down to prospects, I think we should see Bo Nickel against Ikram Aliskerov in 2024. In my card builder on UFC 300, I actually made this matchup there and then in April, but the UFC have decided instead that Nickel's going to fight Cody Brundage, which I kind of get, to be fair. It's maybe not as much of a step up as I 100% wanted, but he is a much better fighter than Val Wilburn, so there's that to it at least. And Ikram has been tearing it up recently. You could maybe, I don't know, it's hard. You could maybe give Ikram like a Gerald Meerschaert or something ridiculous like that in the meantime, or you could just leave him on ice until sort of October, I think. Dana White is not usually that fond of kind of matching up a couple of prospects that early, but I think they're both so young and they're both so good that even a defeat, they could both easily rebuild and get back up towards the top 100%. So I say you do it in October, maybe on the pay-per-view card in Abu Dhabi. If they go back there again like they have done for the last couple of years, that makes perfect sense in my head. And if I'm honest, I would probably go with Ikram to beat him. However, I won't go too much into detail on that. The fight's not been made yet, but I definitely want to see it this year. If not, maybe next year. I've spent so long mouthing off about this fight. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you're probably saying, Sam, please stop talking about this fucking fight. But it has to be Cruz Garbrandt on the 300 prelims. It just makes all the sense in the damn world. UFC 300 is massive. And one of the ways you get a massive card is storylines. You don't get many better storylines than this. It's a rematch. Their first fight was unbelievable to watch. It was arguably one of the best 135 performances ever from Garbrandt. He's on the rebuild. Cruz has got one, maybe two left in him. Just make it. Just make it, Dana. If we don't end up getting this rematch now, I don't think we'll get it. Because I think, like I said with Cruz, he's got one, maybe two left in him. And I think anybody else, if he loses against anybody else other than Cody Garbrandt, it's a wasted opportunity. Because even though I would pick Garbrandt to win at this point, like I said, UFC 300 is all about storylines, and this is a damn good one. I'm going to level with you beautiful people. There's not that many female title fights that get me interested, but this one would be brilliant. It would be a champ versus champ, Alexa Grasso against Zhang Weili. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I think that Zhang is in kind of a mental and a physical place where she can move up. I do think that her aggression and physicality could translate up 10 pounds. It would be more difficult, of course, to impose yourself on larger opponents, but she's definitely capable of it. They had that little kind of back and forth on X or Twitter, whatever you want to fucking call it, at the end of last year, and I think it would make a lot of sense. I would arguably say do it next. If not next, then after next. Alexa Grasso has got Manon Fiorot and Erin Blanchfield waiting in the wings, and Zhang Weili is probably going to have to fight Tatiana Suarez, but if you ask me, I wouldn't mind seeing this first, and then seeing Erin against Manon Fiorot for the winner, and then seeing Tatiana against Amanda Lemos, I don't know, somebody at 115 for that vacant belt. That's exactly what I would do. In terms of the fight itself, it's intriguing, but I'd probably go with Zhang Weili, in all honesty. And also as a little kind of side note, with this happening, I would say Valentina goes up to bantamweight. That's what I would say. To my knowledge, the only champion versus champion ladies fight in the UFC so far has been Amanda Nunes against Cyborg. So if this is only the second one, it would definitely be up there as one of the best, or at least on paper, women's fights in history. And I think it would be a good fight. Co-main event of any half-decent pay-per-view, or if you've got a really nice undercard, you could squeeze it on as a main event. I mean, I personally wouldn't, but if there was a really good, fun undercard, I wouldn't mind this as a pay-per-view main event towards the back end of the year, but I would rather have it as a co-main. But either way, I definitely want to see it. Now this just makes all the sense in the damn world. Rafael Fiziev against the legendary Benoit Saint-Denis. Now, I didn't know a lot about Saint-Denis until about halfway through last year. Of course I knew who he was, but he's just blown up in terms of like exposure and popularity over the last few months. He's been superb. I mean, the Frivola fight was just the tip of the iceberg. He's been amazing for at least a year now. Now, of course, Fiziev is injured, so you could wait around until he's fit again and just make this straight away, or you could potentially give Saint-Denis maybe a Jalen Turner on a pay-per-view card, something like that, and the winner fights Rafael. That could work. But there aren't that many fights that I am 100% generally losing my mind over thinking about, and this would definitely be one of them. I mean, Saint-Denis is a superb grappler, but he'd barely use it against Rafael. I'm pretty sure he'd just try and knock his head off, like he did with Matt, as an example. But no, it would be a superb main event of a fight night. I think it has to be a 5-rounder. I think with the rise in, I suppose, notoriety of Saint-Denis, I think not handing him a 5-rounder now would be a mistake. The only way I would not do it is if it was either on a pay-per-view card or maybe the co-main event in France under a Cyril Gane fight. That's the only way it's not a 5-round main event, but either way, what a fight. I'm sorry, you lot, I just had to get Tuivasa in here. He's literally the channel's profile picture. I love the man to bits, and I know he's already fighting Marcin Tybura, but win or lose, I'd love to see him fight against Rosenstruik. The heavyweight division is changing. Are you seeing these kind of leaner and faster guys, Aspinall, Gane, even a Sergey Pavlovich is in that kind of bracket, Jalton Almeida, and we're losing a lot of the brawlers like the Derek Lewises and these two. I just think while they're still towards the top, they should all fight each other. Like I've said here, it would be a cracking opening to any pay-per-view card. Like I said, it doesn't even matter if Ty wins or loses against Marcin Tybura. I would still see this fight. I would still love this fight. I would still be completely backing Ty, and I would probably say he'd win as well. Not for any other reason, I just love him, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, man, like I said, the heavyweight landscape is changing, and the fights like the Mark Hunt against Bigfoot Silver and the Kane against JDS's, they are going to be a thing of the past. And while they're here, I think we need to make the most of them. And I think this is probably the best, I suppose you could say, fat brawler fight you could make right now, is this one. Here's another fight that I've already mentioned in a previous video. Again, like I mentioned at the beginning, this is not all just massive, huge, like, title fights or kind of number one contender fights. I think that Kelvin Gastelum against Joaquin Buckley is a superb fight, and I'd love to watch it. Gastelum was very easily dominated by Sean Brady, which was a surprise. I wasn't 100% convinced he would win, but I definitely thought that he would be a lot better than he was. And I think Joaquin Buckley is one of the most entertaining unranked guys at 170. I mean, they're both big, massive guys for 170. They're both obviously former middleweights as well, so that is obviously why they're so big for the division. You could even do it at £185 if you desperately wanted to, but like I've said here, in terms of a fight night, like an Apex co-main event, you don't get a lot better than these two, in my opinion. And I think with Buckley, I still think he's relatively young. I don't know exactly how old he is, but he's not quite a prospect, but he's not a veteran either. He could still make a run of it, and I think if he can beat a Gastelum, and especially in good fashion, why not? 170's got a really nice kind of overall blend of old and young. Like for every Morales, there's a Matt Brown. And I think there are a lot of matchups just like this one that you could make. But in terms of the actual fight itself and the spectacle, this is the cream of the crop that you could make. So I'd love to see it. I bet you weren't expecting this one, but Anthony Smith against Carlos Ulberg is one, a fight I'd like to see. And two, I want to talk about a little bit more of a kind of an overriding issue here. Number one, I'm sure a lot of you will know, I'm not a huge Anthony Smith fan, but he has a superb legacy. He's a former title challenger. He has some good names on his record, like Rashad Evans and Alexander Gustafsson, but he needs to hang it up now. He really does. He's actually a half-decent analyst. I mean, he's no Anik, he's no Chael Sonnen, but he's pretty good. He's better than some of the other ones you see around this sport. I'll take that for free. So I think it sounds bad, and I'm not trying to go in here, but he needs to get knocked out, and I think Ulberg would chin him. So yeah, again, that sounds bad, but I think you kind of get where I'm coming from there. He just needs to retire. 205 has just been a complete mess ever since old Jonesy left. I mean, we've had 5 UFC champions in that time. Only one of them has actually defended the belt, and 2 of them have had to vacate after serious injuries. It's just not been very good. And a lot of the guys, like, in and around the title picture have been there for a long time. I mean, why is Ryan Spann still in the top 10 or 11 of the light heavyweight division? I do not know. And then you've got the Anthony Smiths, like I've said here, and the Volkanovskis and the Johnny Walkers, who, yes, is on a good run, but, I mean, his chin is suspect. We need fresh blood. There are a load of guys on the way up that I definitely think should be ranked at least in the top 15, but maybe even higher by the end of the year. And I think Allberg is the cream of the crop there, which is why I've used his name here. But there are others as well. And I have to say, I've been massively impressed with Nikita Krylov recently. And obviously you've got Alexander Rakic is in the picture again. And some of the older guys right at the very top, like a Jan Blachowicz, they have a purpose still. But you've got the Khalil Roundtrees coming up and the Carlos Allbergs. We need a massive shift at 205. Of course, I have to mention, of course, the new champion, AP, and the Ankalaevs of the world. They are 100% there to stay. But like I said, I'd love to see like an Anthony Smith-Allberg fight. But the overarching issue, like I've already mentioned, is that 205 needs a real shake-up in 2024. Let's just get the Debbie Downer out of the way. Alexander Volkanovski will lose against Ilya, and Charles Oliveira is going to lose again against Islam Makhachev, which is sad, but it creates this superb fight. Alexander Volkanovski, win, lose or draw against Ilya, has to go up to like, well, I suppose if it's a draw, they have to do a rematch. But either way, whatever happens, he should go up to lightweight on a permanent basis. And Oliveira is the perfect guy for him. I was thinking about maybe Gaethje for the BMF, but Oliveira makes more sense. Even though neither of them would hold the belts at the time, it would feel like a champ-champ matchup. Or at least I think it would. It would have that massive night feel to it that not a lot of fights anywhere can give you. This one would have it. Volkanovski with the forward pressure and the nutty, bloody submission defence with that big old neck of his, and Oliveira, he's dangerous all the time. His ability to recover after being hurt, it would be potentially fight of the night. If it goes a certain way, it could be a fight of the year contender. It would be bonkers, and I'd love to see it. I really would. And I'm going to finish on Dan Hooker. I mean, this geezer's had more ink on him recently than a fucking squid. He's had a lot of tattoos recently, but he's also injured, which is a bit of a problem. But I think later in the year again, another Fight Night main event, this time in Auckland, New Zealand, against the winner of Dober Moicano. Dan Hooker, of course, has already had one main event in his home country. That was the fight against, it was Paul Felder, which was originally his last fight, but of course he fought RDA again, but now he's back. Whatever, who cares about Paul Felder right now? But I think we go back there again and have him fight the winner of Dober Moicano in, I believe it's February. And I think whoever it is, it would have insane a potential to be a superb fight. I mean, the thing with Dan Hooker is, he has a rare ability to not have the greatest ability to finish a fight, but still always be in fun matchups. I don't know how he does it. He's a little bit like Max Holloway in that way. Drew Dober has got, I would say, some of the best power at 155 pounds, and Moicano has worked a lot on the striking recently, and he's always been a danger on the ground. So whoever comes through, it would be a good test actually for Hooker, and it would really tell us if he's still a top 10 lightweight. And also there is so much kind of Australian and like New Zealandish, is that a word? Probably not. Like overall talent on the UFC roster now, so much more than there was a few years ago. Like you think about the Josh Kalibaus of the world, he'd be great on a main card like this, and that's only to name one. So I think definitely there'll be room for a card like this next year. And like I said at the start, I've got 3 main kind of things I was trying to hit here. Fun, realistic, and a bit outside of the box. And this fight, like with a lot of the others on this list, 100% ticks all 3 boxes. So let's see it in 2024. Maybe, I'm not sure when Hooker's back, but maybe sort of the 3rd quarter of the year-ish, kind of September, August-ish, maybe somewhere around there, I don't know. And with that being said, that will wrap up today's video. Lads, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comments, and also hand me some decent video ideas, because I'm fucking uninventive. But the most important thing is the festivities are gone. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. But now, I'm back on a full-time schedule, and I'm going to be back regularly now, so make sure you keep an eye out. I mean, last year was a great year on the channel. I made the channel last year and we're already getting close up to 1,000 subs. Let's break through that wall early this year and then let's see where we can go from there, alright? I love all of you lot, even the pricks that always say I'm bad at making content. I love you and all, and I'll see you later. Take care.